Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of Journey 2020. We are very excited to have you here, and we are very excited to be travelling at the invitation of Heal Africa Nafata to the wonderful world of Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. My name is Jo Mansfield, I'm the CEO of WorldShare.
And I'm Rochelle Nyatoro, and I'm the International Partnerships Coordinator here at WorldShare.
Tonight, we are going to be looking at inside the world of Heal Africa, particularly looking at the medical work that they do within the hospital. We are very happy to be joined by Dr. Serge and Dr. Neil in a moment. But before we do that, just to headline what Journey 2020 is about, it's about connecting with our partners overseas, even in and especially at these times of COVID. The Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the countries that we are so keen to support. It is a country that is in need of our support. 72% of people in Congo live in extreme poverty. Over 40% of children are malnourished. And so when times are tough, we need to make sure that we're continuing to look after the most vulnerable around the world. So just a warning about the session tonight. We are dealing with some confronting cases, some confronting medical cases. It's not suitable for children, and it may be something that's quite sensitive for people, so please view at your own discretion. We are, as part of Journey 2020, raising funds for the work of Heal Africa, and particularly tonight looking at the Mercy Fund. So this is one of the projects that we have that WorldShare supports, and we are looking to be able to ensure that people can continue to get essential health care. So you can see there our goals. We're looking to raise $10,000. If that is something that is of interest, if you are stirred by the story tonight, please feel free to support that work. Now, let us introduce Dr. Serge as well as Dr. Neil. So they'll come online just in a moment and we'll be able to see them and say hello.
Hello.
Hello there. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me introduce Dr. Serge, who is the Medical Director of Heal Africa. Dr. Serge, tell us about your journey with Heal Africa. How long have you been with them?
Oh, thank you very much. I've been with Heal Africa since 2007. Since I completed my medical school. And since then, I was very young. I came, and it was a very, very exciting moment because I come across many special cases, many difficulties, many problems with security, with the problem going on in the country. And I grew up with Heal Africa, taking care of those kinds of patients, and even taking care of very, very poor patients. So then, after that, in 2011, I went to Makerere University when I got funded from WorldShare to start doing my residency in internal medicine because there was a need at that time in internal medicine. So I went there, I spent around 4 years. Then when I finished, I came back to Heal Africa to work. And 2 years after, I became the medical director of Heal Africa. So from the beginning up to now, it is a very exciting moment in my life. And I'm enjoying, I'm very happy to work for Heal Africa.
Wow, that is so incredible to hear, Dr. Serge. It sounds like your entire medical legacy has been with Heal Africa from start to finish. And we have Dr. Neil joining us here today. I would imagine your story may be a little bit different than that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got connected to the work at Heal Africa?
Sure. In 2002, I met Dr. Joe Lucy, when he was travelling through Australia. And he was looking for doctors, particularly specialists, who would go to Congo and help to train the Congolese doctors. And his concern was that if he sent many of the doctors out of the country to get trained, they did not come back again for obvious reasons. It was a very unstable country at that time. So I visited there in 2003. And we realised there was considerable training and things that we could do to support Heal Africa. And so since 2006, we've been taking annual medical teams, mostly from Brisbane, some people from others around Australia, to Heal Africa for 2 to 4 weeks to upskill the Congolese doctors. But I'm a general surgeon, and in the beginning of 2015, I intentionally finished my practice in Congo, in Brisbane, I should say, so that we could actually spend longer in Congo training up the doctors to do surgery better, because there was a real need in that area. So we, apart from COVID, we usually spend up to 6 months of the year there. So I've known Dr. Serge since he was a young doctor, and I have to tell you, he's a very good doctor, a very good physician, and I love working with him.
Dr. Neil, can you, I believe that you received a certain award earlier this year. Do you want to blow your trumpet and tell us about that one?
No, I try to keep that quiet. No, my wife Gwen and I were given a Order of Australia award, an AO, for the work we've been doing in Africa. So we're humbled, but we try not to trumpet it, as you say.
Sorry for ruining that for you. And of course, you weren't able to go to the ceremony in person because of COVID. You're not able to travel to Heal Africa at the moment and fit in with your regular routine of spending half the year in Goma. How are you feeling about that?
Incredibly frustrated. We were in Goma and we returned home at the end of March because of the government directive and the urging of the Australian Embassy. But I'm conducting weekly training through the internet, through Zoom, and that's good, but it's not the same as being there. It's not the same as being able to demonstrate clinical symptoms and signs to doctors. And unfortunately, I cannot operate over the internet. I'd like to try, but it doesn't work too well.
Yeah, we maybe in the future, we'll never know. We actually have a word from Dr. Joe, the founder of Heal Africa, who talks to us a little bit about the impact of COVID at this time. So we'll take a look at what Dr. Joe has to say.
As we know, the COVID-19 has become the biggest problem of the year 2020 in every country. And especially us in Africa, you know, we rely much on the donors, on our partners, especially Australia. Most of our equipment that we use in the hospital is from Australia. And now we can't have those equipment anymore. We have all our machines that are broken, like our X-ray machine, and we have our operating room scanners, and all this we can have in Australia, but there is no way because of the lack of the transport. And even now, we still need to help people spiritually, because at the hospital, many people need medicine, but we don't have medicine because everything has doubled the price, and we can't get easily outside the country medicine in. We can't import anything. Very happy to know that the COVID-19 is hitting badly Africa now. We are experiencing what is experienced everywhere in France and all the countries, and in Australia, I guess. But in our country, we say, we are praying to God to say when it is finished. And we know it is because of this that we don't have our brother from Australia, and anybody is not allowed to circulate or to travel the way it used to be before. And if we are your brothers, you are welcome. As soon as the pandemic allows it, please come.
Lovely to see that from Dr. Joe, isn't it?
Yeah, so we definitely open invitation there for you, Dr. Neil. I don't think there's been a healthcare system anywhere in the world that has not been affected by the pandemic. But I think the situation in the Congo is a bit different, because even before the pandemic broke out, it was a system that was strained in many different ways. Dr. Serge, can you talk to us a little bit to help us understand the state of the medical system and the medical care that's available in the Congo?
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, the medical system in the Congo used to has problems since a very long time, many years, because of lack of good organization, good planification, and so on. And, you know, the poverty is hitting, again, badly, the system. because there is no money, people are not working, they cannot afford anything for themselves, even education, even medical care. And more, again, the system, how to make the good care to reach those patients in the villages, those poor patients. There's nothing. There's no system like insurance system which can cover the treatment for many people. There's nothing like that. So everyone needs to pay for himself. And you know, most of the patient population, because of lack of education, lack of money, they end up going to see witchcraft or traditional practitioners. And at the end, they reach the hospital when things are very bad, when they're dying. So the system is very, very broken. Yet, I know the government is trying to organize things, but there's still very, very big challenges. Yeah. That's what I can say in summary. But I know money is not there for most of the patients, and that they are there are many coming in the hospitals, and the hospital has no enough medicine, not enough personnel, specialized personnel, no enough infrastructure for them. So things are not easy in this side of the country. But in general, I think it is even better in Goma. After like more than 10 years, Dr. Nel said, when he came, it was worse. Things are improving in Goma. And then now I can assure you, we are getting more and more patients coming from very far in the country, reaching Hill Africa today. I have a patient who came from Buta. Buta, it's around 350 kilometers from Buta to Kisangani, not yet in Goma. Yeah. They traveled, the father and his son, 25-year-old man, traveled with his father on the motorbike 350 kilometers. And they came, they started the journey at 6 a.m. and they reached Kisangani at midnight. Then they took a plane from Kisangani to Goma because they say at Hill Africa there's good treatment. You know, they have to come from very far to reach Goma because there's Hill Africa, which is trying to do things better than many whereas in the country. So just to give you that example to show how the problem of the system of health system is very, very difficult around the country in DRC.
What a journey to try and access healthcare. I can't imagine having to go through such an ordeal while ill. Dr. Neil, can you help us understand really how this compares to maybe what a lot of our audience today here in Australia is used to? So there's a lot there that we can't really fully appreciate. Can you give us a little bit of insight in how their healthcare system compares to what we are used to here in Australia?
We in Australia have probably one of the best health systems in the world, and we take it for granted, I think, sometimes. As Dr. Serge said, people have to travel long distances. They do not have funding. Just to give you an example, a statistic that Australia spends about $7,500 per person per year on health care for the Australian government. The Congolese government spends $25 per person per year. They were 2017 figures. So people have to fend for themselves. That means that they don't go to the doctor easily. So when they come, they present with advanced problems quite often. They have complex cases. I've seen things in Congo that I never thought I'd see, and I continue to see them. There's lack of resources. And that ranges from just even getting things like blood transfusions right through to equipment and investigations. And the lack of funding is particularly a problem. As Dr. Serge said, many of the people live in poverty. And so they'll go to the traditional healer. The sad part is that quite often the traditional healer will charge them some sort of fee, and then they have no money to come for conventional medicine. Hill Africa has some of the best trained specialists in Congo, and what Dr. Serge has said is correct. People travel long distances to come to Hill Africa, and while that is fantastic that they come there, it also is a rod up the back of Hill Africa, if I could put it that way, because then they come and the patients have no money. They've spent their money on transport to get there. And Heal Africa then has the problem of a patient has come and they have to try and treat them, and all of that costs money. So that's a huge problem for the hospital to then be paying staff, but at the same time helping out people that simply can't afford to have their treatment, whatever it may be.
Mm. Well, Dr. Serge, can you flow on from that and tell us about then the Mercy Fund and what the purpose of it is and how it works?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank WorldShare because of giving us that fund, which helps us to reduce our stress. You know, being in front of somebody who's very ill, very sick, is suffering, and not doing something is very stressful for us. This because our role it is to treat the patient, to alleviate that pain, and to let them get hope and live again their life. If there is no fund, we will be stressed ourselves. So thank you for that. And we are trying to choose our patient from those who need treatment. And most of the time, if we can do something, because we are starting from the specialist, you appreciate it, say, okay, for this patient, we can do something. We can do this and this. And then we are going to prioritize and to choose those kind of patients to get them, to give them that funding from WorldShare, that funding for their treatment. And if you can do something, you do it. It is not good to spend money, treat somebody who will not, because as Dr. Nell said, sometimes they come when things are very bad and even they are dying. We are trying to alleviate the pain and let them go back home. But for them, those who will cure, we are giving them. That means we are choosing, using the social worker, the pastor, and the nurses to choose those kind of patients. And most of those patients are very, very, as we can say again, very poor. I said that the system is not well organized. And there was war and security in the upcountry, in the villages. And there's no good hospital, good care that side because infrastructure was destroyed. There's no doctors are there, but they are not well trained. They don't know how to do very simple surgeries. So we end up getting patients with very, very bad complications. Then when they are coming from villages, as Dr. Ned said, they did not dig, they did not farm, even if they did it, rebels or because of security, they cannot sell to get money from themselves. The only thing they can do is just to get money for transport. Even they can come with some few things, food for like 2 or 4 or 5 days. Then they will come and spend more than 2 months in the hospital. So by the time they reach the hospital, we cannot tell them to go back because they are very sick. Yeah. We have to treat them. When we do not have funding, it is difficult. As I can say, sometimes the hospital, with some kind of finances it has, it can help some of them, but we cannot help all of them because of what we are having as charge, as huge need, financial need in the hospital because of the personnel to sustain the infrastructure and many other taxes. So in general, we are choosing patients who are very poor, who need care, who will recover, and then at the end we are going to give them hope and go back, start working for their families.
Yeah. We're really beginning to get a sense of the strain and the challenges that the doctors at Heal Africa work under. Talk to us about the kind of cases that do make it through, the ones that you are able to fund through the Mercy Fund. What types of cases are these?
Yeah, it is difficult to choose because there are many different cases. You know, we can get some specific funding for some specific cases, like clubfoot. We have partners who are affording for clubfoot for less than 2 years old children, but above 2 years old, we have no funding. So we are trying to see how to help them through WorldShare, through the fundings. And as you can say, many of these patients are still young, they can produce, but because they got trauma, because they have some kind of internal medicine diseases, or even children with some very bad situation like hydrocephalus, like perforated anus, and so on. So we have many different cases. We cannot say we have a specific number of specific cases, like most of our cases are like in this field and this field. No, we have many cases, even some kind of fathers, mothers, or patients who can come with some kind of complication of diabetes. We can treat them because they do not have funding. Then they can go back with some kind of advice to prevent complications. But also we are having ladies coming with difficult labors because, you know, our rate of C-section is a bit high, not because we like to do C-section, but because we are a referral hospital. Many of the difficult cases, they are referred to Hill Africa Hospital. When they come, they've planned for normal labor, which is not very expensive, not more than $20. But by the time they develop complications, the bill will increase. It can reach even 300, 350, even $1,000 US. Those patients, those ladies, they not prepare for that. They were saving only $20, which they are going to pay at the end when they will deliver. So when to reach more than $100, it is a very big problem. Now the hospital, or from fundings, we can help those ladies and to discharge them, and they can go back home with their babies. Those are examples of what I can say, but we have many examples.
Yeah. We do actually have an example. You mentioned in your discussion about hydrocephaly. Just a few months back, we heard a story about a young triplet named Ketya who'd appeared at Heal Africa, who was desperately in need of treatment after her mom had given birth to them in a provincial hospital that wasn't able to provide the care. Dr. Neil, can you tell us a little bit about hydrocephaly and what it is and why this baby had to come to Heal Africa to get the treatment that she needed?
Yeah, most hydrocephaly, or people would know it as fluid on the brain. So it's due to an increase in fluid due to some blockages, and it's associated with vitamin B deficiency. So it's a disease of poverty. It's a disease when people do not have a good diet. So it's very common in Congo, and many children are born with hydrocephalus or develop it. And it can be often simply dealt with by inserting a shunt, which costs about $100. But the problem is getting the surgery and having the surgeons who have the experience to do that. So Heal Africa has particular expertise in doing that. They do a lot of shunts. But again, you know, if you think about an operation in Australia, it can be very expensive. Even a basic surgery can cost several $100s, but for maybe $100, $200, you can cure or go towards giving a child a future. And yet almost every ward round I do when I'm in Congo, there is particularly children where we say, well, there's no money. The patients have no money, the parents have no money, or they're going to see if they can sell a field or a goat or something to try and get money to pay for the surgery. And hydrocephalus is a particular problem because there's no specific funding body that supplies that. So that's some of the work where the Mercy Fund goes to.
Yeah. So in this particular case, Ketya was really lucky to have access to the Mercy Fund and get the treatment. Dr. Serge, can you tell us about how that treatment went? Was the surgery successful? And how are the triplets doing today?
Yes, I think they are doing very well. The surgery went out very well, and they were discharged from the hospital and they went back home. But maybe because of COVID-19 challenges, we are not in contact with them. But knowing that when there's a problem, they end up coming back to Hill Africa Hospital. So because I'm not seeing them, I'm sure they are doing well.
No news is good news.
No news is good news indeed.
That's one of the things you have to get used to in Congo. When the patients do not come back, you know they're well. They don't get followed up because many of them come from a long distance away.
Yeah. Well, so we will say happy birthday to the triplets. They were born last year in August, so they have reached 1 year old just a few weeks ago. Thanks in part to the wonderful work of Dr. Serge and his team there.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, really awesome.
One of the other stories that we've heard about, which is fairly sad and distressing, is a story of Espoir. Espoir is a young boy that tried to kill himself due to problems in his home, and his complications were fairly severe as a result. And my understanding is that it took him weeks to actually reach Heal Africa Hospital. Dr. Neil, I think you had some information about that. What is the importance of the Mercy Fund in a case like that?
These young people need fairly complex surgery, and without it, they don't have a future. He has drunk some acid, which has scarred up his swallowing tube, so he's not able to eat, and so he needs bypass surgery to bypass the blockage. Now, that's fairly major surgery in that context of Heal Africa, but it also, even just the basics, it costs some funding to actually be able to fund the surgery, the equipment, the instruments, the follow-up, and all that sort of thing. There are x-rays involved. So it's a real need for the Mercy Fund. And sadly, it's a problem that it often affects young people in Congo. Life, as you can imagine, is not easy, and it's extremely difficult. So we do have some cases of self-harming like this. But the other problem that arises causing the same issue is that people in their homes often use the plastic bottles that you have water in to store their chemicals. For example, caustic soda for making soap, a basic need. And sometimes some of the children I've operated on have drunk what they thought was water, but it was caustic soda, and it's caused the same problem of Espoir. So initially, they have to have a feeding tube put into their abdomen to feed them, to improve their nutritional status before they have the surgery. So then it's costs for the food. And if you do not do that, they go into the operation with a poor nutritional status and they have a poor outcome. So all of those simple steps are important to actually get a good outcome for the young person. And you can give them their life back. The young lady that I operated on with the same problem a few years ago, and her parents were destitute. They'd spent all their money. They'd been to 4 different hospitals trying to get care. They came to Heal Africa, they had the surgery, and now she's topping her class in her schooling. And when you see something like that, you realise what a small amount of expense can give a future back to a young person. And who knows, they might go on to be a leader in Congo.
Yeah. That's, in a story like that, I would imagine that not only is there a need for medical intervention for the physical body, but the mental health implications of what these patients and their families are going through could be really very challenging. So one of the things that I think is so great about Heal Africa is the work of the chaplaincy program there, which works side by side with the Mercy Fund. Dr. Serge, can you tell us a little bit about the work of the chaplains and how they work side by side with you as doctors to provide the best holistic solutions for the patients there?
Yeah, thank you very much. Because every days, but especially on Tuesday, on Friday, we are meeting all of us, doctors, nurses, patients, and the chaplain, everyone. We are meeting together to pray together. That's the beginning of giving hope to these patients who are very frustrated, are stressed, and they have lost hope. When they are getting stories in the church, or they are getting when the pastor talk about to them about Bibles, they get back slowly and slowly. They get back some hope. But more, as I said, before we choose patients for a Mercy Fund, we are involving also the pastors. When they come, they see what we call them. They come, they walk, they talk to the patients. I try to reduce their pain, psychological pain, spiritual, and to give them back hope, telling them that God is back. God is there. God will help them. God has not abandoned them, and God can help them through other people, through even Hill Africa Hospital, through doctors. God can help them. And slowly, by talking to them, using also social workers like counselors, we are trying to reduce that stress, that discomfort, that depression to those patients. That's how it works. When they have need or they need prayers, when they need to talk to a pastor, the pastor is still there every time. Is ready to listen to them, to talk to them, so that their problem will be solved. First of all, psychologically, spiritually, then after slowly with medical care, they will improve in general, in total, and they can go back, start living a normal life in the society. As what Dr. Neil has said, he operated on a lady many years ago. Now we are working with her. She's very happy, and her family is very also happy. So we are happy when we are seeing her. We are seeing those patients we are helping. It is very good for us ourselves, because somewhere it's also treating our stress ourselves.
Yeah. It's a fantastic example of what Pitchin was talking about yesterday, of the holistic approach that Heal Africa takes to looking after and healing its patients. So it's fantastic to hear about that. One of the stories that we've been following closely in recent months has been the story of Shabani. Our supporters would know the story of Shabani because we launched an appeal for him a few months ago. This was a young boy who presented to Heal Africa with very severe burns. We have a video about him. We'll have a look at that now and hear from him himself.
My name is Sifalea. They were playing in a group of kids, and one of them came with a bottle of oil. They were discussing among kids. Some were saying it's fuel, some others water, some others were saying it's parafuel. And the one who has set fire on Shabani said they are going to try it on Shabani because Shabani does not want to share with them his donut and his toys. Then they've called Shabani to come and kneel down, and Shabani was refusing. After they told him if he refuses, they will set fire on his younger brother. He listened that they are going to set his younger brother on fire. He kneel down because those other kids were older than he. And after that, they took that fuel and they poured on Shabani and went to look for a match and set fire on Shabani. His left arm has not yet returned as it was before. We really want to thank them for all what they've done for Shabani, for they've done a very important and very hard surgery on Shabani. Papa Pitchen, may God bless him. Through him, we got the chance of getting health care here at Heal Africa Hospital. And I'm not sure if he will go to school because the life has become very hard in our family. I am Shabani Bianchira Espoir. After my second surgery, I was able to turn my neck, but I've been observing some difficulties to turn my head on left or right. I will become a doctor so that I may be taking care of vulnerable patients like me. May God bless Papa Pitchen because it's through him that I got medical assistance. I could be a disabled. May God bless him abundantly. Yes, they are responsible because they are two vulnerable orphan children and I am taking care of them. No job, I don't have any fund to start my income generating activities. I would love to have someone of a goodwill who would want to support us, and especially Shabani. But I may see how these two vulnerable can go to school and grow up.
Yeah, it's hard not to be really moved watching Shabani's story. Dr. Neil, why don't we start with you? How did you first come across the story of Shabani?
You know, it's about 12 months ago on a Saturday afternoon. I'd finishing up work at the hospital, and one of the nurses at Heal Africa brought Shabani up to me. He'd just arrived. He comes from Ijwi Island in Lake Kivu, and he'd arrived at the hospital, and I just need to give a shout out to the nurses at Heal Africa. It's the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife, and one of the really good nurses brought Shabani up and said, "Is there anything you could do?" And there was this small child, same age as my grandson, with his neck fixed down on his chest and his left arm fixed through the scarring to the left side of his body. And you could just see in his eyes he really had no hope. And we basically embarked then over the next months of different surgeries to free up the contractures in his neck, and subsequently in March this year freed up the contracture in his left arm so that he could now move his arm. He will always have some degree of scarring. You can see that on his face, but his story is absolutely tragic. You know, he was bullied, and then he was set on fire, and really had no hope. But to see him again in that photo there with a smile on his face was just beautiful for me to see him like that. I mean, the problem of burns in children in Africa, but particularly in Congo, is a major issue because they do often get burnt, and they often get not appropriate treatment. So again, to be able to give a young boy like Shabani a future and a hope, that's what Heal Africa is about. And people have ministered to his grandmother who was raising him. Both his parents have died. That was his auntie, I think, there. And the burns leave a huge problem with long-term care, requiring multiple surgeries, scarring, and stigmatization and everything for the child. So it's a long road. So, you know, Shabani, that was September last year, and Shabani's now back in his community, back going to school. But it's been probably 7, 8, 9 months to get him to that stage where he can do that. So that's again, an issue where Heal Africa plays a major role, not just in the funding for it, because I have to say I'm incredibly grateful to WorldShare for funding through the Mercy Fund his care, because his grandmother actually wrote in a pen on the wall of the hospital in Swahili saying, "Can anybody help me get the money for," I'm paraphrasing it, "but anybody help me get the money to help my grandson." You know, so the fact that WorldShare could fund that is a major thing. And as you just heard, he wants to become a doctor now to help others. So, you know, that's just a great story.
Yeah. And it's, I think we're beginning to get a sense, but it's just so hard to imagine having just not been able to pay for your own grandson's surgery to be able to heal him in such a dramatic way that he needs. So it is fantastic to be able to step in there, to be able to say, this is what we feel like as Christians we are called to do to help bring healing to these people. Dr. Serge, it must be incredibly difficult for you as a doctor and for the other doctors and nurses to see those cases and to, I guess, not be able to assist everyone and have to wait for funding at times. How do you cope in that context?
Yeah, it's a very stressful situation. As Dr. Neil has said, we are trying to do what we can do. If we have some medicine, we are trying to provide medicine. But when things are very difficult, like very, very expensive medicine which are not available in the hospital, we cannot afford. We are doing with what we are treating with what we have. And we know sometimes it's not enough, but we are, because we say we are trying to do what we can do. We would like to do more, but since it is not possible, at least we do what we can do. That's what we are doing. And we pray God to help us to get more for this patient. That's why I can say I will thank WorldShare, because we have treated many patients with funding from WorldShare. That helps also us as doctors. When we say you see that we can get solution for somebody else through our partners, it helps also ourselves to reduce our stress in front of this kind of situation. Yes.
And I really have to take a second there. Dr. Serge says thank you to WorldShare, which for us really is saying thank you to our supporters. So thank you, and thank you again to all the people who continue to selflessly support the work of something like the Mercy Fund. We don't get this opportunity to always see the full picture and to really appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing that story, Dr. Serge, but thank you to those of you watching who've been supporting this work for so long. When he says thank you to WorldShare, he's saying thank you to you.
Yeah, true. Now we are going to move into a time of Q&A. So if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, either Dr. Neil or Dr. Serge or ourselves, feel free, put it into the chat and we'll take a look at those questions. I think a few of them have already started coming through. So let's take a quick look. Okay. All right. What number of patients do you treat on a yearly basis? That would be a question, I believe, for you, Dr. Serge.
Okay. You know, I'm a doctor, physician. I'm treating my own patients. Then I'm medical director. We are treating many patients in the hospital. So we are having
we might be having internet troubles.
So he's frozen. I'll step in there, Joe. Look, I can tell you there's about between 21 and 25,000 outpatient interventions, outpatient appointments that happen to Heal Africa every year. There are about 5,000 surgeries that happen, round figures, 5,000 surgeries that happen every year, and somewhere around 800 to 1,000 what are called outreach surgeries, when the doctors travel to other parts of Congo to perform surgery in rural areas.
Wow. Dr. Serge, it sounds like you stay very busy.
Yes. Yeah, I say in outpatients, we are having more than 35,000 patient consultation per year. That's in outpatient clinics. Inpatients, we're having around 8 to 10,000 admission per year, because we are having around 600 per month, around 600 to 650 per month. But it has increased this year. I think at the end of the year, in our statistic, we'll be having more than 4,000 outpatient consultation and more than 10,000 in the hospital, because of this COVID-19 has increased the admission of patients this year.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from one of our viewers in relation to fistula surgery. The question is whether Heal Africa still does fistula surgery, and perhaps for those who don't know what it is, if you could briefly explain what fistula surgery is.
Yeah, we are a center of excellence for fistula treatment in the region. Because we have of gynecologists who perform fistula surgery in the hospital, but also, as Dr. Nella said, they are going in the villages in rural area to perform again surgeries there, because you know fistula is a very big stressing problem for ladies. You know, they have, and for ladies. So in the hospital, we are performing many fistula surgeries every year. And
can I just interrupt you there, Dr. Serge, and could you explain what a fistula is?
Yes.
What causes it?
Sorry, please?
Sorry, could you explain what a fistula is and what causes fistula?
Oh, good. Thank you very much. So fistula, there is fistula in general. I think Dr. Nell can explain more. Those are surgical cases, but it is a communication between two hollow organs. What, as I can say in simple way. So mostly we are having vesico-vaginal fistula. So there is a link, there is a hole which make communication between the urine bladder and the vagina. So urine pass through every time because production of urine does not stop. And since it does not stop, that's why also urine pass every time. And the lady end up smelling urine everywhere she's going, everywhere she moves. And that causes some kind of social problem because they are getting away from her and she has to stay alone. Sometimes even the husband run away, but also the family members run away. They can give to that lady a specific place where she's going to stay all the time. She'll not be in touch with other people because of that smell of urine. So it is very stressful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Joe on the spot a bit here because I know you've had an experience kind of where you've had some in a previous visit and what your experience was of just what the trauma really is related to fistula.
Yeah, sure. So this I was involved with supporting Heal Africa in a volunteer capacity many years ago, particularly in the legal capacity, because fistula is something that can be caused either by childbirth, by obstructed labour, or through sexual assault. And so that was in particularly looking at sexual assault and looking at some of the things that prevent women from being able to go through the justice system when these things happen to them. And of course, one of the amazing work that Heal Africa was doing at that time is actually, again, another example of their holistic approach, is having lawyers on the grounds of Heal Africa to try to help so that women, once they come to the grounds of the hospital, they can be cared for in all different kinds of ways, including being able to be supported through the justice system. And as Dr. Serge said, one of the things that amazed me, oh, sorry, Dr. Yeah, yes? No. One of the things that really amazed me about it was, as Dr. Serge was saying, the stigma and the exclusion and the treatment of these women who go through this is really horrifying, and they are really alone. And so particularly what touched me was the work of the chaplains in the hospital, the way that they were supporting them, and the work of the doctors, just everyone coming around. And I know, yeah, I can see exactly why Heal Africa is known and for the work that it does in that area.
So Joe, Heal Africa is one of 3 major hospitals in the whole of DRC that provides fistula care. Panzi Hospital in the south and then in Kinshasa, but Heal Africa is known for its fistula care internationally. And thankfully, by the grace of God, many of the effects of the sexual violence have diminished, although it still happens, sadly. But many of the cares are due to poor childbirthing, many of the cases, I should say. And now we are even seeing many cases resulting from even poor C-sections in the rural areas. So it's a significant problem, and this, as you say, the stigmatisation of it is enormous. So the support, the holistic care of Heal Africa is incredibly important to fistula care.
Okay, I've got a tricky question that has come through, and Dr. Serge, let me throw this one to you. What is the most common problem that patients have in Goma?
What do you mean? It is a clinical problem, medical problem, or, you know, we are talking
There's
about
a lot of problems.
Food, but for clinical problem in general, we have this surgery problem because, you know, surgery is expensive most of the time. But for medical general problem, by the time you know the diagnosis, you give good treatment in 2-4 days, the patient can get out of the hospital. But surgery takes time. You need more material, more medicine, personnel. It is expensive. That's a big problem we are having, because we have young people who are doing a motorbike taxi. They are very, very young, and they are jumping up and down, and they are getting up having trauma and fractures, and they're ending up spending more than 2 months in the hospital. But also we are having a rising problem in diabetes, cardiovascular disease, but the worst of them, it is cancer. The rate of cancer is increasing these days in our country, especially in our hospital. So those are big problems. We cannot have good solution because of low experience, low income, and low personnel. We do not have specialized personnel enough to take care of these kind of problems. So, yeah, but in general, surgery is a big challenge, but also this raising new diagnosis, which we used not to see. Since I started doing my treatment, we used to have cases of diabetes, but not like this. We used to have cases of the cancer, but not like this. So things are changing, and the epidemiology of disease is also changing.
Yeah. So
probably the commonest illness though is malaria, and it's very common for even the staff to be suffering from malaria and ending up needing admission. I think it's worth people knowing that health workers, even the Heal Africa staff, they're working very hard, but often they get sick themselves and need treatment. And that just adds another complexity to everything.
Yeah, and actually the next question we have up is actually exactly about those people that you're working with. Dr. Serge, can you tell us a bit more about the medical staff and who do you have working with you to run the hospital?
Yes, we have a very good medical staff, and also I say thank you again to our partners who has provided fundings to get specialists in this hospital. As I say myself, I got funding from WorldShare through his partners, and I did my residency in Kampala, and I came back to increase the capacity of the personnel. We have specialized doctors, we have internal medicine physicians, family medicine physicians, general surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, specialists in anesthesiology and resuscitation, radiology specialists, and other specialists in pathology, and many other fields. But I think the needs of specialists still there, but we are the hospital where we have more specialists than other hospitals. That's why the quality of care has improved, very, very improved at Heal Africa. Because patients, at the end, they're ending up coming to Heal Africa when they're going through everywhere, from traditional practitioners, traditional healers, other small hospitals, then they end up coming to Heal Africa when things are not going on well. It is because of that capacity we are having in our medical specialists, in our personnel. So that helps us to deal with many problems. But still, we know that the need of specialists is still there.
Yeah. Well, my mom is a nurse, and I know nurses often say you can't run a hospital without a support staff. The nurses are the ones who really do a lot of the hard work. Can you tell me how many nurses and support staff do you guys have that are helping you out?
Yeah, by starting by doctor, okay, let me start by nurses, since you're talking about that. We have around 100 nurses these days, because the hospital has grown up. You know, the capacity of the hospital was, since it is growing up, we need also more. We are having around 40 doctors, 17 specialists, and 23 general doctors. And for cleaning staff and administrative staff, we're having 15 administrative staff and around 25 cleaning staff. Yes. But one thing I can add that Dr. Nels know about that, because one thing which improve our capacity to take care of patients is because we are having experienced doctors from other countries, from Australia, coming to train our staff, and they are giving them good skills. You know, we can say we are doctor, but when we are not trying to upgrade, to increase our skills, we can stay even going backward without now knowing. Now, since this COVID-19 pandemic has started, we are not getting this stuff coming back to Heal Africa to help us. We are trying to do something with Zoom meetings. Dr. Nels know about that. And our nursing staff is more clean in that than other staff. They are trying to do it. We used to get support from Dr. Nels' organization to send staff out of Congo to get new skills, to know what is happening somewhere else. And they come back with new good skills, which helps Heal Africa Hospital to take care of these patients better than somewhere else. So that's, we are missing it, that situation. We are missing that situation too much. But hoping that before the end of COVID-19, Dr. Nel with his team can still help us doing things through Zoom, even if it is not the best way to do things. We are going to keep it like that.
Yeah, and we hope that there can be some travel before too long and things can go back to normal. One of the questions that we've received is on that. We'll just ask two more questions. One of the questions is about the impact of COVID. We've heard just now some of the challenges that COVID is causing in relation to your professional development and your ongoing training. What about the cost of things, the actual running of the hospital? Has that been impacted?
Yeah, there is two situations. There's the cost of things, but accessibility to medicine, to drugs, to things. That's a big problem. We used to have good medicine coming from sometime Rwanda, from Europe, but since the border was closed, it was difficult to get that medicine. Because among all medicine we used to have, we lost more than 40% of the medicine we used to buy from abroad. Then we are having the 60% used to buy in Congo. So that reduced the capacity of taking care of some patients. That's a big problem. But also, as I said, the number of patients has increased. And the hospital was more than 100% full. We will not have space where to put patients at some point. But also, at the same time, when the number of patients increased, at the same time, the number of vulnerable patients also has increased. So the need helping patients also has increased. And our personnel needed to be trained to deal with that situation of COVID-19 and to protect themselves. We got help from partners like WorldShare to buy equipment to protect our personnel against COVID-19. Yet it was not enough. But since these days, the number of cases of COVID-19 has reduced a bit, we can now deal with that situation or lack of going on. But now we can now order things from other countries, but it takes time to reach Congo because of COVID. But also the bill has increased because the need is very high. People are asking for items, so we need to pay more to get items. So it is a bit disturbing this time, but we're hoping that it will not take long.
Yeah, so many flow-on effects, aren't there?
Yeah, so many.
Our very last question for you, Dr. Serge, is are there more children like Shabani who need help?
Yeah, it is. They are there. Sometimes they are coming to us, but these days Dr. Nel is not around. But also sometimes there's no funding. They have to go and wait for the team to be there to treat them. An example of Shabani is one part of the situation, but there are other needs. You know, at the beginning, you used to get some kind of findings to help patients, children, baby who born with malformation, which can be treated, like imperforation of the anus or some other complications, malformations. But these days, we do not have funding for that. And since sometimes, for those who can wait, they can wait. For those who cannot wait, we are trying to use our own means financial means in the hospital to treat them, because we cannot let them go back home. We have to treat them. So there are many, many needs. And today, we do not have shunts for hydrocephalus. We try to contact some people who used to provide us with shunts, but because of this COVID-19, things are stopped. We cannot, we are waiting, but we are not in touch with them. So there are many children who need help, but in the situation is not allowed today, but even after, the hospital used to take from his own financial, from his own money to help those patients. But if there's no funding, there's no money, if they can wait, we are asking them to wait.
Yeah, yeah. It's really hard imagining the condition of people just having to wait for, I imagine often in real pain, having just to wait for essential healthcare. But the good news is, if you're watching this, if you're moved by this, there are things that we can do. We can step into this space. And as Dr. Neil has said, we are so lucky not to have these kind of issues and not to worry in this way. But that's not the case for everyone in the world, and that's particularly not the case for people in the DRC with the impact of poverty. And so if you would like to do something about this and be involved in helping a child like Shabani, please do so. There will be, in the comments section, there's an opportunity for you to donate. Also you can go to our website. The average cost is about $315 to be able to provide some critical care. So if you would like to transform a life to be able to do this, feel free, please, to donate whatever you can.
And I think, like Dr. Neil mentioned earlier, it can seem so overwhelming when we hear the magnitude of the cases, but for as little as, even I think Dr. Neil said, $100, every bit goes a really long way. It can seem like an overwhelming situation, and we can feel like we can't really do much, but your dollar goes so much further in the Congo than it does here. So we just really want to encourage you to pray, just prayerfully consider how you can play a part in helping those that are waiting end their wait a little bit faster and get a little bit closer to the hope and restoration that's offered at Heal Africa.
So just to close off, actually I have one more question for you, Dr. Neil. You spend half your time, or you have until very recently, half your time in the DRC, which makes you almost half Congolese. Now, one of the delicacies in the Congo cuisine is goat intestine. How's your appetite for that at the moment?
I do not like goat intestine. I do like grasshoppers. Fried grasshoppers are really delicious. They're like French fries.
Okay.
I draw the line at fish heads and goat intestines.
Well, we hope that you're able to get back to your grasshoppers before too long. Dr. Serge, Dr. Neil, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for sharing with us and for really bringing it home, the work that you are both doing at Heal Africa.
And thank you to everyone joining us at home. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, and thank you for making this possible through your generous contributions to the Mercy Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So feel free to join us tomorrow. We have more events, and especially for Thursday night, which is our finale event, traveling to Goma in the DRC. Thanks very much. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye.